What's up, guys? It's Ben with 2020 election predictions, and today is a very, very exciting day. Nate Silver and 538 just dropped their 2020 election forecast. This was one of the main forecasts that we looked at in 2016. If we remember back then, I bet this is very familiar to y'all. This was the 2016 forecast on election night in 2016. Well, Nate Silver and 538 just dropped their 2020 forecast, and it looks a lot different. There are a lot of differences, like on how they present things and different things, but it's very similar on very many other levels. And before I get too far into the video, I just want to remind y'all, please subscribe. I'm at 1,200 subscribers right now, and I'm really just trying to grow, especially getting it up to election day. By the end of the month in August, I want to have 2,000 subscribers. I know that's a huge goal, but I think we can do it because right now I've noticed that 69% of my viewers are not subscribed. So I'm going to wait 5 seconds and give y'all some time to subscribe. See where my cursor is right here. Go to the right-hand part of the video. There'll be a box, and hit that red button and hit the subscribe button right now. I'll give you 5 seconds to do it. And also hit the bell notification if you haven't already. All right, so just diving into the video right here, we see that Biden is favored to win the election. And one of the reasons why they presented it differently is because I think a lot of people thought that this diagram was a little bit misleading because, like, just looking at this model, it does not look like that Donald Trump has a chance at all. Like no one would predict him to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, just based on kind of looking at the color coding of this election. Nate Silver chose, and he tweeted this too. He chose to present it differently. So he's like, these are all the outcomes that can happen. Donald Trump wins 29% of the scenarios, and Joe Biden wins 71% of these scenarios. So I think it's pretty interesting. Like right here in the top left corner, we kind of see like the best scenario for Donald Trump. Even here, where he would win Oregon and he would win Nevada, and he would win like Maine, states that were kind of unthinkable that he would win. So that's kind of the best scenario for Donald Trump. And for Joe Biden, we can see like the best case scenario for him is he wins states like Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, which is very unlikely, I think, right now. But we see kind of like in the middle, I would assume that like right here is probably the middle. We see that like Joe Biden would win North Carolina, Florida, Nevada, and the Rust Belt states, which is kind of where the polls have it right now. But Donald Trump would keep states like Texas, Iowa, and Ohio. So let's kind of look at the latest news. So, and they talk about this in several other articles that, okay, look, the polls are wrong in 2016. However, they have changed the way that they do their polls. This is like how the 538's 2020 presidential forecast works by Nate Silver. What's different from 2016? They are accounting for a lot of other things besides the polls, and they're allowing for a greater degree of uncertainty, which makes sense because of the economic uncertainty and like with COVID-19, it's going to be hard to project like voter turnout and things like this. And they've changed their economic forecast model. And they're allowing more for covariance, so like states with higher rates of COVID, which makes sense. So I trust their model right now to a degree, and they've also just changed the way that they do polls, because what 538 does is they weight their polls in a certain way because different pollsters have different skews and bias. That's kind of based on historical data. So that will be pretty interesting. So right now we see Biden is favored to win the election, and he wins 71 in 100 scenarios, which is pretty ironic because if we look at the 26 forecast on election day, it is the exact same. In fact, Donald Trump might have a slight advantage right here. So they simulated the election 400,000 times to see who wins, and this is kind of the sample of the 100 outcomes. So I think it's pretty interesting, and what the Fox says over here, don't count the underdog out. Upset wins are surprising but not impossible. So basically what Nate Silver is saying, and he did this on his Twitter account, is that Joe Biden or Donald Trump is at the same position he was in 2016. And there are some reasons why their position's different. Joe Biden's lead has been more secure. The polls have Joe Biden actually at a higher degree of support. So like in 2016, Hillary Clinton never broke 50% of the polls. Joe Biden has broke 50%, and this is talking about national polls. Obviously, the national polls don't matter as much. So in 2016, there was more variability. We saw that Trump had a post-convention boost where he was leading the national polls. That didn't happen this year. So Donald Trump has really not been leading since the coronavirus hit. And we see it's pretty interesting is that like the most likely outcome, like just looking at this histogram, is Joe Biden getting over 400 electoral votes, which is pretty interesting. So we see that 29% of the outcomes do give Donald Trump a win. However, it's more smooth over here. So like each individual win thing is not as likely as say like look at these like kind of bars underneath it that like show that like look the most likely outcome for in this entire election is Joe Biden at 400 getting over 400 electoral votes. That being said, that outcome, if you put it over all the outcomes, is not very likely. So it just definitely depends how you look at it. So that they have a lot of little different graphics. I personally like this graphic the best because I think it's the easiest to read. And Nate Silver does say that like his fans and viewers like this the best, but there's a reason why he's delaying rolling this out because he thinks it can be a little bit misleading. So we see the right here, it has Wisconsin as the tipping point state. Like let's click on Florida, for example. So right now, in 64% of scenarios, Biden wins. And I think the polls would suggest that this race goes even more in Biden's favor. But you can see that this forecast is only 46% reliant on the polls. So I think this 44% that relies on demographics and past voting patterns would probably go in Donald Trump's advantage. So I definitely think it's important that they're using both of these because I think the polls do not suggest that this race is as close as it is. So we look at Florida. One thing I'm pretty interested in is North Carolina because in the polls right now it has Joe Biden ahead, but we can see that this model uses a lot more of the polls. And actually, a lot of the recent polls do have Trump ahead. So we do see a trend line. There's a time where Trump or Joe Biden had a 61% chance to win. Right now, Donald Trump is projected to be the winner in North Carolina. So that's very interesting. And let's look at Arizona as well. So Arizona is very, very close, historically a Republican state, but we see that most of the polls do have Biden in the lead. In fact, Emerson College has, and these are adjusted weighted polls, has Biden up by 6 points, which is definitely very significant. And we can see here that one thing I think is pretty interesting is I think in 2020 they're not projecting as large of a third party vote, even though I think it's still very possible because not that I think Kanye will be it, but like Joe Jorgensen or maybe another third party will pop up later. And just a reminder to subscribe here if you haven't already. I'm really trying to grow my channel, so it would really help me out, and it would help you out getting exclusive access and being notified about all my videos if you turn those bell notifications on. All right, so just going on to let's look at some other states. Let's just look at one of the Rust Belt states. So right now they have, it's very interesting. They have Minnesota, Nevada, and New Hampshire as more competitive than Michigan, which based on kind of what my analyses have been makes sense to me because I think that Michigan is the least favorable. But it's interesting that Minnesota, which didn't go to Donald Trump in 2016, is more in reach based on this model than a state like Michigan. So let's look at Wisconsin. Right now it's about 30 and 70, which we can see is a lot better than his chances in 2016. They've definitely done some adjustments to the models because the polls are pretty similar, I would say. But we see that 46% relies on demographics and past voting patterns, and they also weight these polls. So I bet you that these were more reliant on the polls than the model here does. So that would be very, very interesting going forward. So that's a 30% chance of Donald Trump to win. Let's look at Pennsylvania, 27%. Pretty interesting. And let's look at Michigan. Michigan, 81% chance for Biden to win. I think this is probably fairly accurate just based on looking on my own research and looking at the polls. There's some double-digit polls here. All right, so that looks like the model right here. Obviously, I will give you all a bunch of updates. I just woke up, so I haven't really had a chance to read through these articles that much, but I will do that, and I'll try to add some extra flavor to the videos in the future. But this is a model that I'm going to be looking at a lot. So I really hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. And please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, guys. Please, please, please. All right, see y'all later.